Hello, my name is Marceline Vargas, and I will tell you how I died. It all began 6 months ago on a chilly and snowy June morning. Snow on a spring day should have been a horrible omen, and I wish I had listened. 6 months earlier, I sat on the floor crying silently while I clutched my mother's hand and a gun in the other. My mother gazed at me in agony. I'm sorry, my sweet girl, she rasped as the virus slowly destroyed her mind. I patiently waited for her to die before she turned into a walking corpse. Tears blurred my eyesight, and my body shook from the intense pain in my heart. My mother's skin became paler as time passed, and the veins all over her body became a dark shade of red. Those were the classic symptoms of the blood virus turning a person into a zombie. So, with a heavy heart, I lifted the gun to her temple and with a loud bang, pulled the trigger. My mother's eyes became dark and her body limp. Seeing her blood spatter everywhere, leaving a terrible copper odor in the frigid air, made my stomach churn. Oh, what a chilling day, the first of countless dreadful days I would endure before my gruesome demise. "I'm so sorry, Mom," I whispered as my emotions got more challenging to control. I sat in the corner, looking at my mother's corpse, and wept quietly. My dog Badger, a border collie and German shepherd mix, came to console me as my world fell apart. Him being the only evidence of my old life before the virus, before the world ended and turned into utter chaos. "I can't do this alone," I said, as I sobbed like a child trying to console myself, hugging my dog. My salty tears wet his soft fur as I cried and held him close. Suddenly, I heard wheezing and groaning outside the abandoned building, causing me to quiet down immediately. A horde of these blood bags walked past the building I was hiding in. They caught the scent of fresh blood permeating the air. Her blood splattered on the walls and windows, drawing them to the fragrance of pennies like a shark in the water. With the horde forcing their way in my direction, my only option was to flee. So I grabbed Badger and ran with him, barking and whimpering, but their attention was on my mother's body. Fear and sadness rippled through my body as I ran, hearing them feast on her once lively flesh, tarnishing my last memory of her. That had been 3 days ago. Since then, I've been aimlessly wandering the outskirts of El Paso. "I need to devise a plan," I muttered as I stared at the fire I made. I looked at Badger. "What do you think, bud?" I asked, not expecting an answer, and only got a soft snore in response. I started thinking of a plan to keep us alive as long as possible. If we go to Ruidoso, maybe there would be fewer zombies. It's cold around this time of year. The cold should deter them, being that they are dead. Rigor mortis should stop them, or at the very least slow them down, I thought, remembering a fact I learned from my high school biology class. "How would we get there?" I whispered while biting my thumbnail. Just then, I heard a guttural growl, and Badger started snarling. A ravenous horde was closing in on us, their insatiable hunger driving them forward. With limited choices, I snatched Badger and my backpack and ran. The world had gone to hell. Streets that once bustled with life were now teeming with the undead. And here I was, running for my life through El Paso, Texas's desolate, zombie-infested city. As I sprinted through the abandoned alleyways, my heart pounding in my chest, I spotted a figure up ahead taking cover behind a rusted dumpster. It was a man armed with a makeshift club. Desperation clouded his eyes. I skidded to a stop, almost colliding with him. "Whoa! Are you okay?" I asked, gasping for air. His eyes darted around, assessing the danger. "As okay as one can be in a zombie apocalypse. My name's Juan. Are you looking for a way out of here too?" Commotion in the distance interrupted our conversation. More zombies were closing in. "Yeah," I replied. "We need to find a safe place. I was thinking about going to Ruidoso, New Mexico. It's our best bet." Juan nodded, his grip tightening on the club. "Agreed. Let's team up. Strength in numbers, right?" We ventured out together, fighting off the undead as we made our way towards New Mexico. Our path was treacherous, and the once beautiful landscapes were now tainted with death. After a grueling day of surviving, we stumbled upon a couple seeking refuge. Chris and Linda. They were armed with a shotgun. Chris eyed us skeptically. "Who are you two?" I stepped forward, keeping a cautious distance. My name is Marceline, and that's Juan. We're just trying to find a safe place. Would you like to join us? Linda lowered the shotgun, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. Sure, we lost our group a while ago. With newfound companions, our journey became somewhat more manageable. The constant fear of loneliness dissipated, replaced by the warmth of camaraderie. Days turned into weeks as we forged our way towards Ruidoso. Along the way, we shared stories of our lives before the world turned upside down. Laughter provided a brief break from the horrors that surrounded us. Little did we know Juan had a secret agenda. Late at night, while the rest of us slept, he would sneak out and steal supplies from our meager stockpile. One night, I caught a glimpse of Juan's betrayal. I followed him quietly through the darkness until he reached a secluded corner, hoarding the stolen goods. "What the hell, Juan?" I whispered, my voice trembling with disappointment. "Why are you stealing from us?" Juan froze, guilt washing over his face. I couldn't help myself. I needed more. I'm a bigger man than all of you and need more calories. I'm sorry, Marceline." The sound of footsteps interrupted our conversation. Chris and Linda were headed towards us, unaware of Juan's betrayal. I had to think fast. "Juan, you have to stop doing this. We can't let them find out that will break any trust we have with them. We need to keep the group together," I urged, desperation lacing my voice. Juan's eyes widened in fear, but he reluctantly nodded. "Fine, but they can't know. Promise me you won't tell them." Despite my anger, I nodded, and we returned to camp, Juan's secret well hidden away. Weeks slipped into months, and I couldn't shake my guilt over Juan's lying. But the bond between Chris, Linda, and me grew stronger, and we became an efficient team against the relentless undead. The day finally arrived when the sign outside Ruidoso was finally within sight. Hope is a flickering flame in the darkness, but now hope was indeed ours to share. We entered the town with cautious optimism, but our joy was short-lived. The zombies had taken hold here too, their moans replacing the sweet sounds of life. Ever the opportunist, Juan saw this as a chance to further his twisted agenda. He lured Chris and Linda into a trap, claiming there was a safe haven just beyond the horde of zombies. "Trust me, guys, I've scouted. It's right there. We must move fast," Juan urged, his voice dripping with deceit. Chris and Linda exchanged glances, their hope burning bright. "Are you certain about this, Juan?" "It doesn't appear safe," Linda expressed her worries. Juan's smile twisted into a wicked grin. "Without a doubt. We will have more protection from the zombies if we get higher up." I tried to catch up with them, but he kept telling me to watch behind us and make sure nothing snuck up on us. As they approached the swarm of zombies, my heart pounded with realization. Juan's betrayal had led them to their doom. I couldn't stand idly by. "Stop!" I screamed, grabbing Chris and Linda's attention. "Juan is leading you into a trap." Confusion painted their faces, and I desperately tried to explain the extent of Juan's betrayal, all while the undead drew closer. Linda's eyes filled with rage. "We trusted you, Juan. How could you?" Juan's facade crumbled, replaced by a chilling grin. "Survival of the fittest, my dear. You two were slowing us down." The zombies lunged forward, their hunger for human flesh overpowering all other sounds. We fought bravely, but it was too late for Chris and Linda. In the chaos, I managed to grab Badger and flee, tears streaming down my face. I had lost my companions and discovered the depths of Juan's depravity. Me and Badger were alone once more. I vowed to avenge Chris and Linda. Firstly, I had to figure out how to escape this nightmare. I must find shelter. I stumbled upon a sanctuary on the top floor of a barren hotel. The town of Ruidoso became my temporary fortress, where I could gather my thoughts and prepare for the ultimate showdown with Juan. The days turned into months as I honed my survival skills and gathered whatever resources I could scavenge. Revenge burned in my veins like wildfire. With my newfound knowledge of the area, I started following Juan's every move, tracking him and studying his daily routine. As the moon hung high, I cornered Juan in an abandoned building one night. Fear twisted his face, yet there was a hint of arrogance in his eyes. "Marceline," he sneered. "We both know how this will end. The world belongs to the walkers now. There's no room for trust or loyalty." I stepped forward, my voice laced with determination. "You may be right, Juan, but the only way for me to survive this nightmare is to exterminate the monsters that lie within it." With a swift motion, I lunged at him, our bodies crashing against the decaying walls. Each strike carried the weight of Chris and Linda's memory. I threw another punch, too enraged to notice the knife in his hand. He pushed me into the wall, pressing his knife into my throat, drawing a bead of blood. He smirked at the fury in my eyes. "Did you think you could get me? How pathetic," he remarked with amusement. Badger, witnessing my predicament, leaps at Juan's arm. Juan thrust his arm back without hesitation and impaled Badger in the abdomen. The blade slowly inched its way up Badger, its edge slicing through flesh with ease as the blade drew nearer to his chest. Terror gripped my soul as Badger's lifeless body collapsed to the ground, his abdomen brutally ripped open, exposing a grotesque sight of gushing blood and entrails. The repulsive mixture emerged rapidly, saturating both Juan's and my shoes. A blood-curdling scream escaped my trembling lips as Juan cruelly mocked my tears, his laughter echoing through the room. Lost in the depths of my sorrow, a grotesque figure reanimated from the dead lurked in the shadows, its rotting flesh drawn towards the scent of fresh blood. Juan continued to laugh as he pulled my pistol away from me. It was the same gun that I had used to put an end to my mother's agony. Juan's eyes gleamed with an ominous glance as he aimed the gun at me. The deafening sound of the gunshot echoed through the air, piercing my flesh as searing pain consumed my left leg. With a chilling smile, Juan rashly turned his back on me, leaving me writhing in agony, abandoned to a horrific fate. With its decaying limbs, the zombie crawls towards me, its hunger-filled eyes fixed on me. I desperately lash out, delivering relentless kicks to its rotting skull, hoping to ward it off. But it persists, its bony fingers digging into my gunshot wound as it hungrily sinks its teeth into my quivering thigh. I let out a guttural moan and lunged towards the side, seizing a chunk of debris and mercilessly bashing it against his rotting skull until he ceased moving and collapsed onto me. With my heart pounding, I desperately shoved the zombie away, my hands slick with cold sweat. I inched closer to Badger with tears running down my cheeks. I drew Badger's head onto my lap and gently brushed his fur to soothe him. His breaths are shallow and labored as he whimpers in pain. My throat constricts and I mutter, "Oh, my sweet boy, I'm so sorry. I love you so much, baby. You can let go now." I sobbed quietly as I held him, trying to find some comfort in our last moments. As Badger took his last breath, I saw the light in his eyes fade out, breaking what was left of my already shattered spirit. Everything and everyone I cared about had been taken away, and now I was left with nothing. I screamed in despair and wrath, feeling the blood disease seeping slowly into my veins and realizing I needed to move quickly. My sanity will soon slip away, leaving only a hollow vessel of decaying flesh. Even though I knew I was dying, I seized his collar and placed it around my wrist as a final act of vengeance. I rose from the cold, decaying floor, my trembling hand grazing the wall for support. My eyes burned with a sinister gleam as I crept toward Juan's hideout, my heart pounding with anticipation and dread. Each step I took left a trail of red, a grotesque invitation to the ravenous undead that lurked nearby, their insatiable hunger drawn to the scent of my fresh blood. Snow began to fall on my face, its icy touch sending shivers down my spine. The air was frigid, a chilling reminder of the cruel winter that refused to release its grip. As I rushed through the desolate landscape with my wound trying to slow me down, each step felt heavier, as if the ground beneath me was trying to pull me into its icy embrace. The transformation almost completely consumed me as I dragged my battered body closer to Juan's hideout. My once vibrant veins twisted and contorted, morphing into a sickening shade of crimson red. Life drained from my flesh, leaving it a ghastly, dull gray. I feel the life draining from me, I gasped, my voice barely a whisper. "No," I hissed, my anger morphing into a sinister force that consumed me. I clutched onto a cold, rusted metal pole, my only lifeline in this nightmarish abyss. My heart pounded in my chest as I stood before Juan's door, consumed by an overwhelming sense of dread. With trembling hands, I summoned the last remnants of my courage and forcefully thrust the door open, the deafening sound of splintering wood echoing through the room. Juan's eyes widened in sheer horror as he gazed up at me, his body trembling uncontrollably. His face twisted in a grotesque expression of terror as he beheld my ghastly appearance. As the corners of my mouth contorted into a sinister smile, I approached him. With a malevolent desire coursing through my veins, I extended my hands towards Juan, my eyes gleaming with hunger. In a macabre display of my insatiable appetite, I mercilessly sank my teeth into his delicate, quivering flesh, relishing the horrifying act of consuming his very essence. I ripped into him mercilessly as the darkness consumed my soul, my existence flickering before the abyss of eternal terror. In the depths of my tortured mind, I was plagued by the haunting memories of all I had lost. The image of my dear mother, her once warm and loving eyes going vacant and lifeless. The faces of my fallen comrades, their bodies torn and mangled, flashed before my eyes like grotesque apparitions. And then, the memory of my beloved dog Badger, his once playful and loyal spirit snuffed out by this asshole. As my world dissolves into this hideous entity, I muster my last rationality to ensure he dies the death he deserves. As his blood-curdling screams fill the air, I mercilessly tear his appendages from his trembling body, relishing the horrifying sight. With a twisted vengeance burning within me, I plunged my hands deep into his abdomen, mirroring the unspeakable cruelty he inflicted upon my innocent dog, ripping apart his insides, extracting every last ounce of what lay within his gut. In the midst of his agonizing demise, I mercilessly ripped his head, severing it from his torso. He doesn't even deserve to exist in the sinister realm of this malevolent virus. With Juan dead, I surrender to the chilling embrace of the abyss, succumbing to the eternal darkness that engulfs my wretched existence, for I am now so hideously alive.